Welcome back to MDL Crochet. This week's weekly item make tutorial is going to be a twisted ear warmer. Now the twisted ear warmer is very simple to do. I did this in the knit stitch, but you can do it in any stitch. I did make one also in the simple stitch, so you could do it in any stitch you want to do it in. And of course there is measurements, which I will be throwing up on the screen. And the things you're going to need some type of binder clip to help you hold. You can use a binder clip, or you can use the little gripper clips that squeeze and shut. You're going to need your tapestry or darning needle, your crochet hook, as well as a pair of scissors and your measuring tape. Now this is done in 22 inches, which is the standard female head size. And at the halfway point is when I changed color yarn, so when you're looking at it, boom, it's pretty. Now I did use worsted weight 4-weight yarn, as well as a 6.5mm crochet hook, or the K 10.5. But with that being said, if you do find these tutorials very helpful, please give me a like and subscribe. And if you have any comments or suggestions, please let me know in the comment section and I will reply to you and we can talk. But let's get to it. Now I know this looks a little dark, but I had to do that so the light wasn't really glaring off of the head. Now the way you're going to measure is you're going to start right up through here. You're going to take your measuring tape and you're going to put it in the center of the forehead. And you're going to go all the way down, include the ears, all the way around the base of the skull, back around, and back up. And where the two meet is how big you would need to get it to be. Okay, so how we're going to do this is we're going to start our chain of 16. Now, it doesn't have to be 16. You can just measure your ears. As long as you can get the measurement that falls a little below your ears and a little above your ears, that'll work. The reason why is it's an ear warmer, right? So you want it to cover your ears. I'm just going to do a base chain of 16. So I'm going to go ahead and pull up 16. 2, and 16. So that is the base chain. And to pull up the loops like we always do in Tunisian, you skip the first one simply because the loop on your hook counts as that one. So you go down and you skip the first one, go to the second one, roll over, and you'll see the hoop, the back loop, the back bumps that we're always going to go through. And those are what you're going to pull up your loops with. And you're going to just wiggle your way through and pull up a loop. And you're going to do this all the way down to all the back humps. Some yarn, it's going to be hard to see the back humps, but if you angle your work just right, you'll be able to see the back humps. They just tend to blend in with different types of yarn, different colors of yarn. Like colors like this, it kind of blends in. So you got to twist it just a little bit, especially if your eyes aren't all that great. You're going to want to twist it just a little bit so you can see, that's the front side. So if you just twist it slowly, you'll see where that hump is. And sometimes the humps are a little aggravating, and I get it, because they aggravate me at times. And any experienced Tunisian crocheter will say this is the part we all dislike the most. Because one, it's the slow part, and it's the most aggravating part because when you're pulling up these loops through those back humps, you're tightening the ones before it or after it that you haven't gotten to yet. So that can get a little frustrating. But just know, as soon as you get past this part, regardless of how big your chain is, it's downhill. I'm sure it's the same way with crocheters where they dislike the foundation row as well. I know I did when I crochet. But with Tunisian, it's a lot slower of a process, and sometimes it is a guessing game of where your needle is going to go, because you're not sure if that is a hump back loop because the yarn blends in so well. Okay, we have our foundation row. So what we're going to do is we're going to yarn over and chain 1. And we're going to yarn over and pull through 2, yarn over and pull through 2 all the way down to the end. Alright, I'm pulling through the last now, and that is our foundation row. The stitch I am going to be using for this is the knit stitch. And the reason why I decided to go with a knit stitch for this is because the knit stitch has a lot of horizontal give. So if you actually make it a little too small, you got some give. You could also do it with the full stitch, which has a good elasticity to it too. But I decided to do it with a knit stitch. Now with the knit stitch, you see you have 2 bars. You have a front post and a back post. Here's your front post, and then your back post is hugging the needle. So what you're going to do is you're going to go in, pull up the front post, but instead of pulling up a loop, you're not pulling up a loop. You're going through the gap before the next loop, and you're yarning over and you're pulling through. You're kind of angling, and that's what you're doing. You got a front post, back post. You're going through the front post, and then you're angling towards the back. Pull, yarn over and pull up a loop. That is all the knit stitch is. And then when you get a few rows on it, you will see how the knit stitch is taking effect. And if you need a refresher for the knit stitch or don't know how to do the knit stitch, I will be putting a link to the video right here, so you can go ahead and watch it and learn the knit stitch. It's one of the base 5 stitches. But we're going to go ahead and pull up all these loops in the knit stitch. Here we have 1 gap left, which is our last row, our last stitch. So, as always, take your needle. You have all the loops on it, so you just close off the row below it. Just roll your needle down to that row you just closed off. Fold your end over, and your needle is going to slide right where it needs to go. Yarn over, and pull up a loop. Yarn over, chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2, and you're going to pull through 2 all the way down to the end. The yarn I am using is from Joann's. It is Eddie Bauer Cozy Camper Acrylic. And this one is, I believe, I don't remember, I think it's called something orange. And then the other one is called Paprika. That I do remember. That's the second row done. With these ear warmers, you count the first row. So we're going to go ahead and do the knit stitch all the way again. And just a refresher, you have a front post and a back post. If I can grab it. Front post here. Back post here. So what you do for the knit stitch is you go in front of your go behind your front post, and then there's that gap between each stitch. There's always a gap. So you're just going to shoot into that gap to go to the back without touching the stitch next to it. Yarn over and pull up a loop. And you're going to do that all the way down till we get to the end stitch, and you can start seeing where we're able to do that a little bit better because they're starting to get a little separated. And we're going to do this all the way down. Do a few more rows together. Now if you're wanting to do a color change, you're going to stop at row 43. Row 43 is where you'll need to do the color change at. It's going to be a total of 86 rows. Okay, so we're here at the end again. Just take your needle, roll it down to the row you just closed, fold your work, and you're going to slide right where you need to go. Pull up a loop, yarn over, chain 1, yarn over, pull through 2 all the way down to the end. Okay, I'm pulling through the last stitch now, and we're going to do one more row together, but you can already see how the knit is taking effect. On this next row, you'll see it really well, and you can actually see the front post and back post a lot easier. So you'll just slide through the front post, angle towards the back without touching the stitch next to it, yarn over it, and pull up a loop. And you're able to do this a lot easier when you get more on there, because you can just shoot, because you can see it right here. There's the back post, there's the front post, back post, front post, just angle and boom. So we're at the end. I'm going to try to open this up a little bit more so we can see. Take your needle, roll down to the row you just closed off, and fold your work over. You're going to slide right where you need to go. You can see the chain right here. Now behind this chain is a bar. So you're splitting the bar and the chain. That's what you're doing. Yarn over, pull up a loop, yarn over, chain 1, yarn over, and pull through 2 all the way down to the end. Alright, so you can see how the knit look is starting to take effect. That is the knit stitch. And you can see how your bars are kind of separating, so you'll be easier to dive into them and split them. We've already done 4 rows. I'm going to go ahead and do 39 more off camera, and I'll be back in just a moment, and we'll switch colors. Be right back. Alright, so we're at our halfway point, which I am doing this at 22 inches, which the halfway is 43, because its total length should be about 86 inches. I want to do a color change, so what I went ahead and did is I snipped the line coming in and made it shorter. So that way I know during the return pass it's going to switch over. And with this stitch, the return pass is going to be hidden. And it's going to blend in really well. There's a few other stitches that you can do that with, such as the full stitch. You can definitely do that with that. The simple stitch is going to be shown, so that's not a good stitch to do this with. Now, and I also do this only on smaller projects, or it's definitely stitch dependent as well. Alright, you're about to see where it's changing over, and they're changed over, so we can get rid of those 2 little tails. You can come back and weave those in later, but go ahead and finish your return pass with the new color. The other way that you can add color is just loop it in and leave it dangling and then mess with it later. I don't like that method. I like things to be secure. And with the knit stitch, because you're going through and then pulling up a loop, you're hiding that different color pull through. And you can see the pull through is it's blending in really well with the new loops. So it's not going to stand out at all. And you can do this as an easy way to change colors. Just make sure that when you're changing your color, let's try to pin those down a little bit. When you're changing your color, that you're doing it kind of close to the beginning of the return pass, so that way when you're doing the return pass, or the next forward pass, excuse me, so that way when you're doing that forward pass, it blends in. I'm going to go ahead and finish up the remaining 43 rows, and then I'll be back and we can stitch this thing all together. And we can make it into a twisted ear warmer. Alright, I'll be back in just a few. Alright, so we're on our last row. And what we're going to do is we're going to go ahead and do our knit stitch close off. So go through like you would do a knit stitch, but then slip it off. And that is it. It's a knit stitch, slip stitch. We're closing the project off. And you're going to do this all the way down to the end. And we want to leave ourselves a really long tail because we got some work to do here. This yarn that I'm using is the Eddie Bauer Cozy Camper acrylic. It is not the best for this. It wants to split up and created weird edges. I did everything I could do to get the edges to come right, and they just didn't want to cooperate. But this is an example. I already have a prototype that I did first ready to go, and I'll show you all that here in a minute. But this is just to show you an example of what you can achieve with different stitches. Now, I made an extra slip stitch because that's just the way I do things. Now we're going to go ahead, pull it up. Now to do this, we don't need our needle, crochet needle no more. To do this, we don't want it on this side. We don't want to face them this way. We want to marry it this way. But before we do that, we need to weave in our ends. So let's go ahead and weave in our ends, and I'll be right back. So once you got your decent sized tail, you can go ahead and thread it because you're going to need it threaded. So go ahead and get your needle on there. Take your side, fold it together, make them even. Do the other side, fold it, make them even. Open them up just a little bit so you can sandwich the two sides. And you're going to sandwich them. Now, one thing you can do, because this is going to get a little crazy for you, is take a bigger clip and clip it. And there we are. Make sure you don't clip your line though. So now it's held in place for you. So you take your needle with your thread, and on the side it starts on, and on the side it's coming from, go through all, try to get every single V stitch that you can. Thread it and pull it nice and tight. And you're going to do the same thing again to the other side. You just got to make sure you get all the little V's, because that's what's going to hold your project together. There you go, and just do that all the way down and make sure it's nice and tight. Making sure you're grabbing every single stitch so that way your project holds together. And if you got a long enough line, you can come through and do this multiple times, so that way you know you are secure and that nothing is going to come undone for you. You can go ahead and get rid of your clip because I know it's going to get in your way. So go ahead and get rid of your clip. Do one more little stitch and then we're going to work our way back. Alright, now we're going to start working our way back. And remember, you still have that sandwich one right here. So we still got to get it, right? And there you are. And keep on going down. Back where you went through. Because this is adding more security. Well, it would help if I get that in there. And we're going back through. It's going to add more security. Just keep pulling, making it nice and tight. You do not want it to come undone. There we are, we're almost there. And then once we get there, we got to make sure this little hole is filled in and tight. You could have done that on the forward, but I like to do it on the when I'm doing it in return. Just because I think it helps with getting all these other stitches together. And I don't know, I just like, that's just, everybody's got their little quirks of how they do things, and that's how I do it. Alright, so let's go ahead and weave our way in. Get that one, the middle, and then the two middle ones, and slip in tight. And then we'll do one more right here. And there we are. So before you close it off, what we're going to do is we're going to do a knot. Push that knot all the way down. There we go. And I like to make sure things are really secure. Because you just never know with jostling and tossing if things are going to get undone. Now, before we flip it, let's go ahead and weave these ends in. Let's go ahead and get it done. So we're going to move this thread down through here and just weave it in. If I can get it to weave in right where I want it to go, just weave it straight on down. And there's a lot of tension there, which is great because you want that, what I call yarn tension. Yarn tension helps keep your ends woven better, in my honest opinion. I know some people don't do that way, but I do, and I have never had an issue with creating what I call yarn tension. And there we are. That's going to do it. Let's go ahead and snip. Now here's the reveal. Take it and you just turn it inside out, or right side out, Flip that down, and there you are. That is a twisted ear warmer in the knit stitch, so it's got plenty of flexibility. And I also did it in the simple stitch, so you can see both. This one has flexibility. This one has some, but not as much as this one does, because of the knit stitch has a lot of give to it. This will fit a lot better. But that is the twisted ear warmer, and it's simple to make. And with that being said, if you can give me a like and subscribe, it'd greatly be appreciated. And remember, keep stitching.